Lichfield Cathedral, in the city of that name, is a wonderful old building, complete with statues on the front as there used to be on every cathedral. I was a little disappointed to discover that they're Victorian reproductions, but they're there just the same, for you to get the flavour of what a cathedral looked like. Inside there are all sorts of wonderful things, including a new interactive display of the Lichfield Gospels, where you can actually use a touch screen to turn the pages. Remarkable. Normally, if you saw the walls of a building leaning outwards, you would think that I had the camera too low and was pointing it upwards. But I'm afraid that in the case of Lichfield Cathedral, it really is so. The walls are leaning outwards. And it took an awful lot of renovation work and preservation work to make sure they didn't lean out just too far and bring the whole building crashing down. Among the objects on display in the cathedral are a monument to Samuel Johnson, the famous lexicographer, and also the tomb of Hobson, of Hobson's horse. And on it there's a depiction of him accepting the surrender of Shah Shuja, the last of the Mughal emperors. There's also a wonderful 1400s fresco of the crucifixion of Christ. St. Chad's Church, which you see behind me on the other side of the lake, is believed to stand on the site of the monastery founded by St. Chad when he was appointed as Bishop of Mercia, and came here to Lichfield to make it his see, his bishop's headquarters, if you like. Every saint and holy man had to have a well. Makes sense, because even saints have to drink. And so here in the grounds of St. Chad's Church is St. Chad's Well, the well from which the saint drank and which was regarded as holy in some way, perhaps had healing virtues for the people of Lichfield. And you can still go down into it today and find some water, lovely clear water, and a whole lot of coins that the gullible have thrown in, perhaps in the hope that St. Chad's luck will hold for them. St. Chad was a great missionary bishop. His traces can be found over in Essex and as far away as the Fen country. He was also a man of peace, bringing Christianity to the warring tribes and making peace between them. And he is remembered by St. Chad's Church and by the cathedral, which is also dedicated in his honour.
My name's Laura Tanter, and I'm a welcomer at the cathedral. After the death of Bishop Chad in the 7th century, a small Anglo-Saxon church was erected to house his shrine, because pilgrims were starting to come because he was such a great bishop, although he was only here for 3 years. We think there were possibly 2 Anglo-Saxon churches, built one after the other. And then in the Norman times, they built a cathedral over the site of the shrine. There have been some remains of the Norman cathedral that people have seen, but the Gothic cathedral superseded it and took 150 years to build. So basically, where we stand is the Gothic cathedral. We have many treasures in the cathedral, and amongst those you will find some beautiful stained glass in the Lady Chapel. There are 5 bays, and they originated in a convent in Belgium, Herkenrode, and they were bought by an English gentleman and transported to Lichfield and arranged in the Lady Chapel. When the new arrangements for the nave altar were being prepared, there was an archaeological dig, because they were putting in a floor which could be raised and lowered. And because the site of the Norman cathedral and possibly the Anglo-Saxon church were in this area, there was an archaeological investigation which took about 6 or 7 weeks, during which time they found 3 blocks of limestone which are thought to be part of a decoration to the original shrine of St. Chad and depict the angel Gabriel. visiting the Virgin Mary, but that half of the panel has not been found.
Lichfield Cathedral was the site of the shrine of St. Chad, who was buried here, and up in the Lady Chapel there is the site of his shrine, which was, of course was demolished at the time of the Reformation. But on the balcony behind me there was a curious custom. I'll pop up there and tell you about it. Because from up here, the monks would expose or put on display the head, the skull of St. Chad. And the pilgrims down there on the floor would be able to observe it, worship it, pray to it. And the head was kept up here in what is known as the head chapel. Here on display in the chapter house is the famous Lichfield Gospels, otherwise known as the St. Taylo Gospels, because they appear to have originally come from St. Taylo's in Wales. They're beautifully decorated in the Anglo-Saxon manner, but they contain written in the margin little Welsh jottings, including one certificate of manumission, that is of freedom, for a Welsh slave. I think it's so lovely that the Bible, the Gospels, should be used for the purpose of setting free those who are held in bondage.
I'm Canon Tony Barnard. I'm one of the residentiary canons at Lichfield Cathedral. Lichfield Cathedral, like most of our great cathedrals, is, as we term it, a centre for worship and mission, the daily worship of God and praise of His holy name, and the mission, which is God's mission, to live and bring the gospel into all the areas that we can. I suppose it started here 1300 years ago when Bishop Chad came here, who subsequently was a saint, made a saint, and to whose shrine down at the East End pilgrims came, and it became a great centre for the cult of St. Chad. And we continue that tradition today. We worship together, we've got a growing congregation, and that congregation reaches out into the community as widely as it can to bring the good news of Christ. So here we are, open every day, and constantly 3 services a day, and of course big service on Sunday. We'd love you to come and worship with us anytime you can.